My name's Colin West. While traveling this world's wine regions, I've now landed in New Zealand, where I'm meeting up with a local Kiwi girl, Jo Hawley, and a film crew, and we're going through the country's top wine regions to check out the natural beauty, the adventure sports, and the wine. The WINERAM experience. It's the way I'm spreading my passion of wine to the world. Beginning the show in Queenstown was one of the better choices that I ever made. It was a spot that was full of wine, tourists and people traveling through the country, and of course, extreme sports. And so overall, this first episode that we filmed there for the crew and I was one of the better experiences that I think we had filming in the entire country. We had such good support from the very beginning with Johnny Bars, a local food company. And then we had the lab that put me up for months on end, and Shotover Lodge, another hotel down the street, gave Jo and I a room just before we took off for the show for about a month. Queenstown was full of so many different extreme sports activities. We got to go and check out Water Sport World, where they gave us a couple of jet skis to go around and film for the trailer. We even sent our director up on End Zone Skydive to go do a bit of filming for the trailer as well. For the first episode, one of the most difficult things that I found was actually getting everything coordinated. Not for pre-production, but on that day, we were dealing with the weather, which was actually scheduled to rain. So I was quite scared, and I knew that James was due to take off in about 2 weeks' time, and this was the only day we had to film it. And so we were lucky enough to have over-the-top helicopters come on board and give us a chopper to get around everywhere a little bit quicker. And we visited Josh Clark up on the top of Skyline Gondola and got to film the mountain biking sequence there. And then we flew over to the winery at Peregrine Wines and filmed the whole vineyard and wine tasting area before we got up on top of Cecil Peak over Lake Wakitapu, which was absolutely gorgeous. And we got to do a helicopter camping scene there at sunset.
Setting up campsites.
And when we got to the top of Cecil Peak, it was the perfect end to a great day. Are you falling over? What are you doing? You have just entered the tent in the most interesting manner. After we filmed the first episode, we got to go off and do something that we were calling the Shotover WINERAM experience. It was an outing that was involving adventure sports and wine, but also surrounding a bit of a local area called the Shotover River. So we went off and we went skeet shooting with a local provider there, and I hadn't been behind a shotgun for a little while, so I was a bit rusty. However, Jo was a novice and managed to kill it.
Did I get it?
Yes, you got it.
At that point, we were actually taking out some local fans from the show that had won that at the launch party. And so we went over and we checked out Peregrine Winery, which was the location where we filmed the first episode. And they got to taste a bit of wine in the region after doing an adventure sport and seeing really what we were all about. A couple of days beforehand, Jo had taken me to meet up with one of her friends who was in the area promoting their feature film called Netherwood. And so they showed us what they were about, and we went to a barbecue and checked out their film. But we made sure to get them to have a bit of a taste of WINERAM. And so we stopped by Gibson Valley Winery, and we did a bit of a tasting with them. Before, however, I had met up with the chief winemaker at a music festival in the region, where he was hanging out, promoting his winery, drinking some wines, and having a good time like winemakers do. Now, pre-production for the episode really started when I got Sarah, a girl who I'd met from the States, to actually fly down from Auckland. And so she, in return for quite a bit of coffee, worked her tail off during pre-production for us, focusing a bit on public relations, promotions, and being a great production assistant. Another guy who was there from the beginning was Rupert. He was actually supposed to be over in Australia working on a Steven Spielberg film, yet I convinced him to fly back to New Zealand and work on this idea I had. And so we spent 8 months in Queenstown in pre-production. And in return for heaps of coffee, the two of these guys helped me bring this idea to life. It was during this time that we hooked up with people like James Holman, who his nickname is Hollywood, which makes sense because after deciding he was going to work with us, I was supposed to meet him one morning for coffee, and next thing I knew, I call him on the phone and he's in Auckland in a plane on his way to LA where he was nominated at the ISFF for the Best Emerging Filmmaker. This was an award actually that he won and took home, which made it quite nice to say we were working with such an award-winning director. We're also lucky enough to have Joe Hawley, a local Kiwi presenter from Auckland, who flew down to help us with the series. And it was a great addition to the team, and she was really skilled at what she was doing. James had to take off for a couple of weeks, and so we had Elise and Luca, some camera operators who were traveling through the country, join the team, and at that time we took off to Christchurch.
We are Elise and Luca, and we're really excited to be heading out on the WINERAM Experience project. Should be a lot of fun, hopefully some good times ahead, hopefully we'll learn a lot about wine.
See you out there.